Release the Kraken!
Welcome back, fellow game designers. In our last few episodes, we went ahead and updated a lot of our models. So I have my enemies in here, I've got my bullets and my missiles. So now what I want to do is set up the transition between different levels. So to do that, let's jump over into our scenes here. And I've got my main menu and my level 1. Let's go ahead and make level 2 and 3. So I'm going to grab this guy, Control D to duplicate level 2, and then Control D again to make level 3. For my level 1, which is what we're currently in, you can see that up here, level 1. I don't want my boss to be there. Instead, let me go into a top view here. And I'll go to game view, so my character will be here. And I want to just have like a handful of enemies here. I'm not going to worry about the actual behavior of the enemies just yet. I just want them to have something here so that when I move between levels, I can tell that something different is there. So for here on level 1, let me get my scene view. I'll zoom out some. Let's make some enemies. So I'll go to prefabs, I'll get my small enemy, and I'll drag that into here. Yeah, now my small enemy, of course, is facing the wrong direction. It's okay. Make sure he's at 0 on the Y. 0 on the X is good. Now my Z offset, that's fine. I'm just going to spin him around. So I'll go into rotation, and I'll rotate 180 on the Y. So he's facing me. So there's my small enemy. Now my small enemy is not really all that small. But it's okay. We'll worry about the size of the enemy later, but I do want to have them on the screen here. And I can just make a couple of them. So here's one. I'll Control D to duplicate, Control D to duplicate. And here's the other. Wow, those are kind of ginormous for being small, but it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and save my level. I'm going to jump into my scenes here, get my second scene. This is my boss, but I'm going to go ahead and remove the boss. And I want my medium enemy to be in here. So where's medium enemy? There he is. And my medium enemy is actually smaller than my small enemy. So maybe I'll change those later. But for right now, I'm going to have my medium enemy in here. I'll put him on the screen here. Same deal. I'll flip him around 180. And maybe I'll set him at center. And then I'll duplicate him. So Control D to duplicate, Control D to duplicate. Here's some of my other enemies. Yeah, they really are different in size, right? You should always check your sizes before you export, but this is what happens when you don't pay attention. So I have different sizes of my enemies. And then I will save this. And I want to jump over into my third scene, so scene 3, or level 3. And I've got my boss. All right, so all of my levels are set up. Now I want to be able to transition between the levels when things happen. So very simple. I'm going to go over into my first level, which is my menu. So I'll jump over, main menu. And I'll put this game view back up here. Nice and pretty. I really should do some backgrounds for my levels in a little bit, but we'll just start with this. So in here, I want to create a new empty object. This is going to be the game manager. This is going to handle all the things between transitioning to levels and keeping my score and that sort of stuff. We also need to have a script for the game manager. So I'll right click in here, create C# script. I'll call that game manager. And you can see that once we make that, Unity actually has a little gear icon for the game manager to let you know that that's a very common thing that we use. So I'm just going to take that and drag it on to my game manager object. And there he is. Nice. Let's open up the code. So now that we're inside of our game manager, we're going to do some stuff. Up at the very top here, we need to add in a using statement. So we'll say using Unity Engine. So Unity Engine dot, and we want the scene management. Let's also add in Text Mesh Pro, so using TM Pro. because we're also going to use this to handle a lot of the stuff that's going to be on our menu. And then inside of the public class, let's make a new spot, and we'll get a reference to this. So I'll do a public. I'm going to do a game object. And I'll just name this game manager. And actually, I'll just do this as private. So private, and the reason I'm going to do this private is we're going to have it search for itself, so we don't need a public reference to it. So I'm going to come down here, and I do a new function. Let's do void awake. And then inside here, we're going to search for the game manager and then make sure that we can't destroy it between levels. So we'll say if game manager equals null. And null is an internal keyword that just means nothing. It actually returns to the value of 0, but it's just like a handy thing that you can use. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that and throw on some braces for our if statement. If our game manager is null, then we are going to put ourself into it. So I'm going to say game manager equals game object dot find, and we're going to search the current scene that we're in for the game manager. So game manager. Now I'm using the capital on this because that's what we named it in our scene. Okay, so it's going to search for this, and then it's going to grab it and add it to our variable. So it's putting itself in itself. And then we are going to set the game manager as a don't destroy on load. So we'll say don't destroy on load. And look, Unity auto finished for me. It's don't without a apostrophe, and then destroy, and then on load. And those are capitalized. And then in parentheses here, I'm going to do the game manager, like so. That's going to get added to that list. But then, if we encounter another game manager throughout our levels, we don't want to have multiple, because that would cause confusion. We don't need 2 scores. We don't need 10 different player live counters and that sort of thing. So I want to make sure that if we come across any other game managers out there, that we just tell them, hey, we already got one, you guys can go away. So to do that, we'll just say else, and then we'll say destroy, come here you, destroy, and then this dot game object. And that should be object with a capital O. There we go. That's pretty easy peasy. And we can, of course, test that. So if I jump into here and hit play, you can see that right here we get a flag, do not destroy on load, and our game manager is loaded into there. And if I grab the game manager and I open up the inspector, go to debug, we can see that it did find the game manager from our menu, and it did add it to its variable. So it's holding on to itself. It's like, I know that I'm here. I think, therefore I am, which is awesome. Okay, we're good there. Let's jump in, and let's set up a way to transition between levels. So I'm going to make a public void, and this is going to be, I'll say change level, parentheses, and I'll put some braces on here. And for this one, I'm going to have it take in an index. So I'll say int, and I'll say level index. And then I'll do the scene manager. And you might be like, well, where does that come from? Well, the scene manager is actually a class within the scene management namespace. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. I'll say dot load scene, parentheses, and then colon, and inside here it wants the level name. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to do scene name, and then brackets, and then this one is going to take in the level index. Now this is going to be red and angry because we haven't made it yet. So what we're going to do is create what's called an array. An array is just a variable that allows you to have multiple versions of itself, or indexes. So if I come up here, and I do a private, and I do a string, and at the end of the string, I'm going to put square brackets. And this is just telling Unity that I want to have multiple copies of this variable. Then I'm going to call this scene name. Okay. Now, just to show you, I could do it this way. I could have a private string and have scene name and then 1 and set that to, you know, main menu. And then I could do another one and call it scene 2 and call that, you know, level 1 and whatnot. I can totally do that. That's fine. The advantage of using an array is I don't have to do scene 1, scene 2. I can just pass in a number and it'll automatically switch which one I'm looking at. So I'm going to go into here. With the square brackets, it says, hey, I want to make multiple of these. And I'm going to set this equal to, and I'm going to put curly braces here. And I can set the number that I want. Now you can set a specific number, or you can pass in the actual data that you want and separate by comma. So for example, I can do new and then string, and then on this one I can say I want 4 levels, right? And if I make this public, I'll just show you. What that'll do, if I come back into Unity and I open up the scene manager, now I have a scene name, and you can see if I hit the drop down, I got an element 0 through 3, but I've got 4 elements. So I've told Unity that I want to have this scene name contain 4 different values, and I can separate them by index 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can even add more to it. That's pretty handy, right? Now this is what happens if you do it publicly and you can type in the value, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to do it this way. I want to do it internally, so I'm just going to keep it as private. So I'll say private. And the reason I'm doing it as private is I just don't need other pieces of code talking to this thing. So instead, I'm just going to do it this way. And inside here, I'm going to say main menu. And this has to be the same name as the level. So I'm going to go over to here, and mine is main menu with a space. So if I look at my scenes here, main menu with a space, level 1 with a space, 2 or 3 with a space. So main menu, and then outside there I'll do a comma, and then level 1, and then comma, level 2, and then comma, and then level 3. And if I have any more, I can keep adding. And what this will do is it's going to automatically set the current number for me, and it'll pass each one of these in. So this will go to 0, this will go to 1, this will go to 2, this will go to 3. And that's the indexes that it'll have, or the indices that it'll have. So down here, when we tell change level to take in a number, the number we give it is going to be referencing the actual number that these are going to be at. So if I pass in 0, I'll get this one. If I pass in 1, I'll get that one, and so on and so on. Very, very handy. Now, as a safety, we don't ever want to pass in a level that is outside the scope of what we're capable of doing. So if you give it a number that's bigger than what it's allowed, it'll just break the game. So we don't want to do that. What I'm going to do here is put in a safety. I'll say if level index is less than or equal to scene name dot length. Then we can do this operation here. So if it's ever less than, so if we pass in an index, we want to make sure that it's smaller than our length here. And I actually don't want to have the equal to, because array values always are 1 less. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers in my array, but they start at 0. So it's going to go 0, 1, 2, 3. So if it's ever 4, it would break, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just remove the equal sign so that this is never the exact same number as this, okay? And I also want to make sure that we don't ever accidentally pass in a number that is too small. So we can't ever go to like a negative. So I'm going to say and I'll say level index is greater than 0. So it has to be in between 0 and whatever the last value is. So we have this. Let's go ahead and use it. I'm going to jump out into the game here. And then on the canvas, I'm going to go to my main menu, open up my start button. And then for my start button here, I'm going to scroll on down, look for the on clicked. I'll open that up and make sure that I'm not in debug. So right now I have debug on. I'm going to go ahead and hit this little option here and make sure I'm in normal. And there we go, we have on clicked. And I'm going to open up the on clicked option. And I need an object to call. The object I want to talk to is going to be my game manager. So I'll drag that in. And my game manager currently has the code for changing my levels, which is why I'm talking to him. So I'm going to go and get the game object code here. And you can see in here I have my game object, I've got my transform, and down here I have the actual code that is attached to my game manager. And inside here I can look for my change level that I set, and I can grab that, and I can pass in a value. Remember that 0 currently is the level that I'm on, that's main menu. I can tell it to go to 1, and then if I hit play, I can hit start, and it will try to transport me. Now check this out. I got an error. It says level 1 couldn't be loaded because it has not been added to our build settings. Very important. So I'm going to go ahead and hit stop. Of course, I'm going to save my work, and then I'll go up to File, Build Settings. Open that up, and you can see inside of my scenes in my build, there's nothing in here. It's very important to add your scenes to your build list. So the current scene is my main menu, which is 0. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit Add Open Scenes, and then I'll drop it in. And this build scene index, it does add it, and you can see it's also 0 here because it also keeps things in an array list, which is really handy. I'm going to jump into projects here and make sure I'm in my scenes. And now I can just add these in. So I'll add level 1 to here, and then level 2 and level 3. So now here's my list of scenes. If we ever add a scene later on, we have to make sure it is inside of our build settings. All right, I'll go ahead and close that, and I'll save. And now let's try one more time. So there we are. I'll hit start, and it transports me into the correct level. And check this out. The game manager has come with us. Look at that. And it even has the codes attached to it. Awesome. If I hit stop, it'll drop me back into my main menu. Fantastic. So we know that works. And I think that's going to do it for this video. In the next one, we'll take a look at how to make our level transition system a little bit more robust. So stay tuned, and I shall see you next time. Hey guys, thank you for checking out my channel. Misty and I both thank you. If you enjoyed that video you just watched, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Or if you want to support the channel, check me out on Patreon or pick up one of my books, Life and Times Dinah Marton or The Guardian's Path of Ascension. Speaking of which, I'm converting The Guardians into a graphic novel / comic book series. Here is a sneak peek. My wonderful artist, Patrick, is doing a great job. I'm excited. I want to push this out as soon as possible. So definitely keep your ears and eyes open for that. I'll be making announcements as we get closer, and I'll post some shots of that as we go. And if you want to follow me on social media, you can check me out on Twitter. I guess now it's X. Who does that? It's BruceRF1 at Twitter, or at whatever the new thing for Twitter is. Anyway, hopefully see you there, and I'll see you guys next time.